After 10 years overseas, he finally returned. Then saw his mother homeless. Opening hook. What would you do if the person who sacrificed everything for you became homeless while you were busy becoming successful? What would happen if the mother who stayed awake hungry just to feed you ended up sleeping beside a gutter while you lived in luxury overseas? And what if the first time you saw her after 10 long years, she tried to hide her face from you because she was ashamed? The rain was falling heavily that evening. Cars splashed muddy water across the crowded road. People rushed past each other carrying umbrellas, bags, and stress. Nobody noticed the old woman sitting beside the bus station. Nobody cared. Except one man. Daniel froze the second he heard her cough. Not because it was loud. Not because it sounded painful. But because he knew that cough. That was his mother's cough. His heartbeat stopped. Slowly. The old woman lifted her face. And in that moment, the successful businessman who spent 10 years building an empire overseas suddenly felt like the poorest man alive. Because the homeless woman begging in the rain was his mother. And she had been waiting for him to come home. This is how it all started. Nobody looking at Daniel as a child would have believed he would become successful one day. His slippers were torn. His school uniform faded. And most nights, he slept listening to his mother cry quietly when she thought he was asleep. But there was one thing poverty could never destroy inside him: hope. Every morning before sunrise, his mother Grace would wake up exhausted. And every morning, she still smiled. That confused Daniel. How could someone suffer so much and still smile like life was beautiful? Grace cleaned offices in the morning, sold food in the afternoon, washed clothes late at night. By the time she returned home, her hands shook from exhaustion. But the moment she saw Daniel studying beneath the weak lantern light, her face lit up with pride. "You'll live a better life than this," she always whispered.
My son, write your homework. I believe you will make
Daniel
it someday.
believed her. Not because life gave them evidence, but because
Mama,
mothers somehow make
I
impossible
love you.
things sound believable. One
Thank
night
you, my
changed everything.
son.
Rain leaked through the roof. Their landlord had threatened eviction again. And there was only one piece of bread left. Grace broke the bread in half. Then quietly pushed her own piece toward Daniel. "I'm not
Eat, my son.
hungry," she lied.
I'm not hungry.
Daniel stared at her. And for the first time in his life, he truly understood what sacrifice looked like. That night, while his mother slept beside the leaking wall, Daniel made a promise. One day, he would become rich enough to rescue her from suffering forever. That promise became his obsession. While other boys played football after school, Daniel studied until midnight. While others laughed carelessly, he carried pressure far too heavy for a child. Because poverty does something dangerous. It teaches children that love alone is not enough. And Daniel became terrified of ever being poor again. Years later, that fear would almost destroy the very relationship he was trying to protect. The entire neighborhood celebrated when Daniel received the overseas scholarship. Women danced. Children shouted. Neighbors congratulated Grace like she had already escaped suffering.
Mommy, I got admission
But that
abroad.
night, Daniel heard his mother crying alone. He found her sitting beside the window staring into darkness. "Aren't you happy?" he asked softly. Grace forced a smile. "I am."
Mom,
"Then why are you
don't
crying?"
worry.
She
I will
looked at
make
him
you
with eyes
proud.
filled with fear.
I will come back
Because
rich.
mothers understand something sons don't. What? Distance changes people. Daniel laughed immediately. "Not me." Grace smiled weakly. "You say that now." He sat beside her. "I'm doing this for us." "No," she whispered. "You're doing this for your future." Then she touched his face gently. "And I pray success never steals your heart." Daniel didn't understand those words then. To him, success looked like freedom. Freedom from shame. Freedom from hunger. freedom from watching his mother suffer. But sometimes the things we chase to save ourselves slowly change us into people we no longer recognize. The morning Daniel left for the airport, Grace hugged him tightly. Longer than usual. As if part of her already feared this goodbye would last too long. "Come back to me," she whispered. Daniel smiled confidently. "I'll come back rich." He had no idea. His mother didn't care about riches. She only wanted her son. At first, Daniel called home every single day. He told Grace about the snow, the trains, the tall buildings, the strange food. She listened with excitement like a proud mother hearing stories from another universe. But overseas life wasn't easy.
Hello, Mummy. How are you doing?
Daniel faced rejection
It's been
constantly.
long. Ooh.
People mocked his accent. Professors ignored him. Customers insulted him during his night shift jobs. Many nights he cried silently from exhaustion. But he kept pushing. Because every painful moment reminded him why he left. Then suddenly, everything changed. Daniel graduated at the top of his class. A major engineering company hired him. The salary looked unreal. For the first time in his life, he could buy anything he wanted. And slowly, success became addictive. The expensive clothes, the luxury apartment, the praise, the respect. People who once ignored him suddenly admired him. For a boy raised in poverty, that kind of attention felt powerful. At first he still called his mother often. Then work became busier. Then meetings increased. Then promotions came. Then networking dinners. Then business trips. And without noticing it, Daniel slowly began replacing presents with money. Whenever guilt appeared, he sent more cash home. Whenever Grace asked when he would visit, he promised soon. But soon quietly became 10 years. And every year Grace waited patiently. Because mothers have dangerous levels of hope. Even when disappointed repeatedly, they still believe their children will return. The moment that haunted Daniel forever lasted less than 3 seconds. That's all. 3 seconds. He was inside a glass office during an important investor meeting. Everyone wore expensive suits. Millions of dollars were being discussed. Then his phone vibrated. MOM. Daniel looked at the screen. For one brief moment, he considered answering. But everyone around the table looked serious. Professional. Important. So Daniel rejected the call. A minute later, she called again. He silenced the phone. Then
Mom,
came a text message.
I am busy. I will
Please
call
call
back.
me when you can. He intended to. He really did. But after the meeting came another
Hello,
meeting.
Mummy. How are you doing?
Then dinner with clients.
It's been long. Ooh.
Then exhaustion. Then sleep. And just like that, he forgot. The next morning another message appeared. Are you okay? Daniel replied quickly. Busy. I'll call later. No response came. Days passed. Then weeks. Then suddenly, an unknown number called him. Is this Daniel? A woman asked nervously. Yes. I'm your mother's neighbor. Something cold entered his chest instantly. What happened? The woman hesitated. She lost the apartment. Daniel stopped breathing. What? She was evicted. That's impossible. I send money every month. I know. Then where is she now? Silence. We don't know. Daniel's entire world collapsed in that moment. His mother had disappeared. And he didn't even know when it happened. Because he was too busy becoming successful. The city looked older when Daniel finally returned. Or maybe guilt changed the way he saw everything. As the taxi drove through familiar streets, memories attacked him relentlessly. The roadside shop where his mother bought him biscuits after exams. The broken football field. The church where she prayed for his future. Everything reminded him of her. And every reminder hurt. Neighbors recognized him immediately. Daniel. You finally came back. Your mother waited for you every day. That sentence shattered him. Every day she waited. Daniel rushed to their old apartment building. A different family lived there now. The landlord eventually appeared. At first he smiled politely. Then recognition filled his eyes. You came too late, he muttered. Daniel stepped forward desperately. What happened to my mother? She stopped paying rent.
Get out of my
I was
building
sending money.
and take your junk with you
The
now.
landlord sighed heavily. She helped too many people. Daniel frowned. What? Relatives. Medical bills. Debts. She kept giving money away. Daniel closed his eyes painfully. Even while struggling, his mother was still helping others. Where did she go? I don't know. You expect me to believe that? The landlord stared at him quietly. Then said something Daniel would never forget. She defended you until the end. Daniel froze. She kept saying, my son will come back for me. The guilt nearly crushed him alive. Because while his mother defended him proudly, he had been too distracted to even answer her calls. For days Daniel searched everywhere. Hospitals. Shelters. Markets. Churches. Every night his fear grew worse. What if she was dead? What if he truly came back too late? Then on the fourth evening, rain began pouring heavily across the city. Daniel stepped out near the central bus station hoping someone might recognize her. That's when he saw the cardboard sign. Please help me. I haven't eaten in 2 days. An old woman sat beside the gutter soaked by rain.
Mama,
Her face
what are
hidden
you
beneath
doing?
a torn scarf. Daniel almost walked past. Then she coughed. That cough. His entire body froze. Slowly. The woman lifted her face. And the moment Daniel recognized his mother, something inside him broke forever. Grace looked thinner. Older. Fragile. But the worst part wasn't her appearance. It was her reaction. The second
Mom,
she
what's
realized
going on?
Daniel was staring at her, she tried hiding her face. Like she was ashamed for him to see her this way. Mom, Daniel's voice cracked instantly. Grace lowered her eyes. I didn't want you to see me like this. That sentence destroyed him. Because even homeless, even starving, his mother still worried more about hurting him than about her own suffering. Daniel dropped to his knees beside her. Rain soaked both of them. People continued walking past. Nobody understood that one man's entire world was collapsing beside that gutter. How long? He whispered. Grace remained silent. How long have you been here? Finally she answered softly. A while. Daniel started crying openly. Because deep down, he already knew the truth. His mother suffered alone while he lived comfortably overseas. And no amount of money could erase that reality. Daniel immediately took Grace to a hotel. But something heartbreaking happened the moment they entered the room. Grace hesitated at the door. Mom. She looked embarrassed. I'll dirty the floor. Daniel nearly collapsed emotionally. Homelessness had taught his mother that she was a burden. That realization crushed him. After she showered and ate properly for the first time in days,
So why didn't you tell me all this
Daniel
while?
finally asked the question haunting him. Why didn't you tell me?
Mum, come inside.
Grace looked down quietly. You were building your life. I'm your son. And I'm your mother. Silence filled the room. Then Grace spoke softly. I didn't want you returning home out of pity. Daniel stared at her in disbelief. You almost died out there. But you succeeded. What? You escaped poverty. Her voice trembled. That's all I ever wanted for you. Daniel covered his face emotionally. No, you wanted a son. Grace's eyes filled with tears instantly. For years Daniel believed sending money meant love. But now he understood something painful. People don't only need financial support. Sometimes they just need presence. Attention. care, time. And Daniel had given his mother everything except himself. One evening Grace revealed a truth she had hidden for decades. Your father wasn't always cruel, she whispered. Daniel froze immediately. Grace never spoke about his father. Ever. What happened? He left chasing success. Daniel's chest tightened. He promised he'd come back for us. Silence. But success changed him. Daniel slowly looked away. Because for the first time in his life, he saw the terrifying similarity. His father left home searching for success, then abandoned the people who loved him. Daniel also left home searching for success, and nearly abandoned his mother too. Tears filled his eyes instantly. I became him. Grace grabbed his hand immediately. No, yes. No, her voice became stronger. You came back. That sentence shattered Daniel emotionally. Because she was right. He came back late. Broken. Full of regret. But he came back. And maybe redemption begins there. Not in perfection, but in return. Healing didn't happen quickly. Grace struggled sleeping indoors. Loud sounds frightened her. Sometimes Daniel caught her hiding leftover food beneath pillows. Trauma had changed her deeply. And every small habit broke his heart. One morning Daniel tried cooking breakfast. The eggs burned terribly. Grace laughed so hard tears filled her eyes. And strangely, that laughter healed something inside Daniel. For years he chased luxury believing it would bring happiness. But this simple moment with his mother felt more valuable than everything he built overseas. Slowly Daniel began changing. He stopped obsessing over work. Stopped chasing endless achievements. Stopped measuring life through money. For the first time in years, he became present. One evening Grace asked quietly, if I had died before you returned, what would you have done? Daniel immediately broke down. I would never forgive myself. Grace nodded sadly. That's why you still have time. Those words changed his life forever. Because Daniel finally understood something many people learn too late. Success means nothing if the people who love you feel abandoned. Months later Daniel received the biggest offer of his career. A promotion overseas. More money. More power. More status. Old Daniel would have accepted instantly. But this time, he stared at the contract differently. For years he believed success would finally make him feel safe. Instead, it nearly cost him his mother. That night he sat alone remembering the image of Grace in the rain holding a cardboard sign. And suddenly the decision became easy. He rejected the offer. Everyone thought he was crazy. Do you realize what you're giving up? Yes. He finally did. Daniel stayed home. Then he started helping others. Shelters. Scholarships. Food programs. Support centers for homeless elderly women. Because he couldn't forget one terrifying truth. There were thousands of mothers suffering silently while their children chased success elsewhere. And most people only realize what truly matters after almost losing it. Years later, people still talked about the
Today
wealthy
marks
man
a
who
new
returned
beginning
home
for
and
everyone
found his
here.
mother homeless. Some called it tragic. Others called it redemption. But Daniel described it differently. A second chance. Every year he visited the same bus station quietly. The exact spot where he found Grace sitting in the rain. And every single time, the same painful thought returned. One missed call can change everything. One delayed visit. One assumption that there will always be more time. Grace eventually passed away peacefully years later. But one truth comforted Daniel forever. She didn't die abandoned. She didn't die forgotten. She died loved. And before her final breath, her son finally came home. If this story touched your heart, call your mother. Call your father. Visit the people who sacrificed for you before life becomes too busy. Because one day, success won't matter. Money won't matter. Status won't matter. The only thing that will matter is whether the people who loved you felt loved back. Before it became too late.